Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm here today to talk about Resident Evil, the one, the only, the original. Can it be the one, the only when it's actually based on a video game? I'm not sure. But I'm going to be talking about the original Resident Evil. But before I get to that, I just would also like to share that I am planning on watching the entire Resident Evil series for 31 Days of Horror. This is the live action films, all 6 of them. I plan on watching them. Every year for 31 Days of Horror, I try and pick a horror franchise that I have seen some but not all of. So it always ends up being a combination of rewatching and then usually finishing off or at least catching up with the series, which I always like to do. And so for this year, I decided to pick Resident Evil. Now, there are some of the animated films, but if I understood correctly, it looks like they sort of like come between the video games and it's different plot and different characters, if I understand. So I'm going to stick to the live action ones, and it all starts with the original Resident Evil. So this was written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who also does Resident Evil Afterlife, Retribution, and the final chapter, and he directed Alien vs. Predator, which is a film that I quite enjoy. The cast includes Milla Jovovich, Michelle Rodriguez, James Purefoy, which I kept on going, is that James Purefoy? That guy looks like James Purefoy. Is that James Purefoy? It is, it is. I waited till the end of the movie, which I don't always have the patience to do, but this time I did. It also stars Mabius and Colin Salmon. This came out back in 2012. I would classify it as horror, of course, but I do think it's also very much an action movie, and of course it is, if you didn't know, a zombie movie, because that's what the series is about. I gave this a rating of 8 out of 10, or 4 out of 5, and a heart. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about it. It might be a little bit higher than that. It might be 8.5, but I'm sticking with 8 for now. And this one is a rewatch for me. I did watch it back in the day. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it when it came out for rental, and I was not watching a lot of zombie movies. There were not as many zombie movies as there are now, and action horror, or like horror action movies, weren't even as common, so it was a big surprise. Like, so many things in this, when I first watched it, I thought were shocking. They were gross, they were just gruesome, and again, the whole zombie thing was very, very new to me. So if you're unfamiliar with the story or how it's set up, it sort of follows the Umbrella Corporation, who has this big underground, I was going to say lair, but it's not. It's like a workplace. And there is a virus that is exposed to the workers. And then Milla Jovovich wakes up somewhere else. She doesn't remember who she is. All of a sudden, there's this sort of like military-esque team that is coming to like round up her and other people who are there, and they're going to check out this installation, or this workplace, see what happened, and for the Umbrella Corporation. So I actually did not quite remember the plot that much. I couldn't remember, like, I know her character because she is a reoccurring character throughout the series, but in this one she really starts off as like, she doesn't know, she has amnesia, at least partial amnesia. She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know what she is capable of. And then it sort of becomes, she starts to have flashbacks throughout the film, and starts to, start kicking some ass, which is awesome. And Michelle Rodriguez kicks some ass too. So that is great. I actually like the entire team. That's one of the weird things about this one. Although it's a horror movie and it's very action driven, the sort of like villain is very nebulous, right? Like, it's just sort of like the corporation, right? Because it's the Umbrella Corporation, and then also the AI character, but it's like, is she, isn't she, in terms of like, is she a big villain or not? Like, she definitely does stuff that ends up very bloody, but like, what are the reasons behind her doing such things? What are they? I actually don't remember, and I just watched this a couple days ago, and I don't know if they change. I don't know if Alice is a reoccurring character. I don't know. There's lots to enjoy. I have not watched this movie since, I don't know how many times I watched it after rental. So I have watched it a few times, but it has been a while, and it was so much fun. I just enjoyed the mayhem. I enjoyed the team dynamic, like, they were really good at sort of like setting things up and creating a lot of tension, and not knowing like who had loyalties to who, and then you throw in some amnesia there, and then you feel like the corporation is of course evil, but are the people who are working for the corporation, and are these people like they're individuals and they're trying to do their best and they're facing all this like adversity, and then like zombies, right? Like, so it's just like, and technology. One of the interesting things about it was to see, I'm sure at the time, a lot of the things that they did in terms of visually depicting like the buildings and stuff like that, and the effects of the CGI of like some of the horror stuff and all of that was very, like, I think it was very, some, I don't know about the sort of like showing the underground. Some of that seemed very much like, oh yeah, like it looks like a game, but that makes sense because this is based on a game. But some of the effects of like the really gruesome shot, like will never forget. So this is a bit of a spoiler of one particular thing that happens. But I remember the first time I saw the laser stuff, like the lasers like chopping off people's body parts, and then all of a sudden it turns into a grid, and it's just like, there ain't no escaping that. There ain't no escaping that, and there wasn't, and then like yuck. And I actually thought this movie did a really good job of showing some things but not all things. There definitely were, this is R-rated or like, you know, 18A or whatever, like there definitely is bloody and gruesome things throughout, but there were definitely times where they could have shown more that they didn't, that I appreciated. Like, I got the gist of it. I got the gist of what happened in that scenario, and I don't know, like, it feels like now they always are going to show everything, and I think sometimes you don't need to. Like, you know, there was enough gruesome in here to freak you out, you know. And for me, I gotta say, one of the scariest things about this movie, and maybe this is a very strange thing to say, is the dogs. Like, there's these, I don't know if they're zombie dogs or if they're dogs that ate the zombies, but they look gross and they're like covered in blood, but I don't know if that's like their skin has come off or they're in just like, if it's just flesh or what, like, I don't know, but the dogs creeped me out. Creeped me out. Now, one of the weird things about this is that because I've seen it, I know where it was going, and I remembered patchy bits, and I remembered scenes. I remember Milla versus the dogs, and I was waiting for that moment. And I was like, wow, it was so shocking. Again, I remember seeing it the first time. It was so shocking, but it was like such a great moment. And also, there's, of course, because this is also in essence a survivalist film, you are encountering choices in terms of, you know, the need to survive, what people will do to survive, what they will sacrifice to decide, or who they will sacrifice to survive, including not themselves. So you also have that layer of things, and that often is a theme with a fair amount of zombie, you know, movies or series. That is definitely themes that are dealt with, and this one I think deals with them really well. Like, it's interesting to see, like, you don't know who's loyal to who or what choices people make, and there's some surprises along the way, but not all are surprises, which I think is a good balance, because you want to not always be wrong in what you're in the stories that you're following. But I liked the character reveals, I liked the challenges, I liked the action. The zombies are not oddly hugely present in this, but until they are, and then it's like the sort of like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere kind of thing. And but yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it's a really fun action movie. It is gory though, so if that's not for you, then it may not be one to give a miss, because there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of maiming and that kind of stuff, and it's like very gruesome, but it also is a lot of fun. I like the characters. I'm looking forward to the next one. I think I haven't actually seen the second one. I know I've seen the third and fourth, but I think the second one I may never have seen. So that'll be really weird to like have seen films within a series, but not the one that bridges the ones that I've seen. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Let me know your thoughts on Resident Evil. Do you enjoy this film? Do you enjoy this series? And I will be back for more very soon. Thanks for watching.